Hey everyone, it's Jamie from Independence Tree Tarot and Seasons Ritual, and I'm here to talk about the dark moon that is happening on July 24th. It will be exact in New Orleans for Central Standard Time at 2:11 p.m. Um, and this is a very powerful dark moon. Usually I don't even come on this early to talk about full moons or dark moons, but because this one is so big and I can already feel the energy from it, I was like, let's just jump on and discuss it today. It is the 20th. It is a Sunday, so happy Sunday to everybody. Um, why this is making this moon so powerful in this time of transformation, because when I talk about the dark moon, that is when obviously the moon and the sun are exactly together at the same degree. So there's no illumination in the sky. And that is the time when the sacred divine masculine and divine feminine are together in that sacred time, in that sacred space. I always tell people this would be the time to rest, especially as women. We're always on the go, so this would be the time of rest. But for everyone, it's this time of rest because this is when our sacred sides are together in the sky. But this is a good time too for just for you to schedule a timeout if you need a timeout. Or if you don't need a timeout, it's a good time to schedule it. So our sacred sides are together in union, in the void. Uh, and that's when we can recoup. That's when we rest. That's when we recharge. That's when we have those intimate conversations with ourselves, um, as the whole self, because we are together. So the sun and the moon will be conjunct at 2 degrees of Leo, and they will be opposite of Pluto, who is at 2 degrees retrograde in Aquarius. So put a pin in that. That is where this transformation is coming in that we cannot escape. Okay, so don't try to put on your boots and escape it. You can't escape it. Okay, in a good way. Um, so I want to just go back to like what's happening right now in the sky because this also goes with that story of the dark moon. So right now we have Venus who is in Leo. Where is Venus? Hold on. Let me find her because Mercury's in Leo. I believe Venus is in Leo too. Um, Mercury's retrograde. I'm laughing because I am doing this on site. Excuse me. Venus is in Gemini, so I apologize. Venus is in Gemini. She's at 17 degrees of Gemini right now, which right now the moon's at 3 degrees of Gemini. So soon they'll have a talk as he keeps motoring over to Leo. Let me see. Yeah, so he's got to go through Cancer, or she's got to go through Cancer before she gets to Leo, where she'll meet up with the sun. The sun is at 28 degrees of Cancer right now because we're about to end Cancer season and go into Leo season. Leo season starts on the 20th, and then, or no, Leo season starts on the 22nd. Today's the 20th. Okay, Leo season starts on the 22nd, and then the dark moon's on the 24th. So not only do we have all this powerful energy of the dark moon, we have all this powerful energy of the sun moving signs as well. Okay, so all this is happening, but what I want to talk about right now, Venus in Gemini, which is communication. That's why I was thinking about Mercury. She is squaring the nodes of fate, and she started squaring them back on the 17th of this month. Okay, and she will square them until the 26th. So they will still be in a square on this dark moon. And when Venus is squaring the nodes of fate, which is the lunar nodes, and the north node is in Pisces and the south node is in Virgo. The North Node is what we are aspiring to as a collective. The South Node is what we're leaving behind as a collective. Um, North Node, Pisces, moving towards a more spiritual state, um, seeing the goodness, seeing the idea that we can actually dream things, bring them into being. Um, South Node in Virgo, the idea of constantly thinking, trying to make things happen, the idea that we have to martyr ourselves and not be able to do what we want in order for things to happen. So that's what we're leaving behind. So Venus is squaring the two nodes. And this is such an important time. So when she's in a square with the nodes, because they're known the nodes of fate, which I don't believe in fate anymore because we're in this new age of Aquarius, right? So it's talking about bringing in our destiny. And so because she is squaring the nodes, this is the time to start changing our destiny. So Venus rules love, Venus rules money, Venus rules relationships, Venus rules how we feel about ourselves. And so at this time, it is so important to make changes that you need in order to bring in your destiny. And let me tell you this, let's say you watch this a week after, you just come across it, you're bored one night, click on it, and then you like and subscribe. And then you're like, oh wait, I missed that time period. It's okay. Once you get the message, you get the message. You make those changes. Okay, so don't worry about that. But if you're watching me now, this is the time to really go over these things and make these changes, especially when it comes to relationships, especially when it comes to, and relationships can be friends, right? Relationships can be work relationships, relationships can be love relationships. This is calling for a time of change. When it comes to money, it can be something as simple as setting up a new budget. It can be something as big as quitting your job, getting a new job. Um, Same with relationships, leaving relationships, starting a new relationship with yourself. All these things right now, there is a square. So when things are squared, it is under pressure, but I always say it's because you have to, I see squares as building blocks, right? And so you want to make this foundation stable, right? So look at your life right now, right? What is it that needs to change? Okay. Start small, get bigger. If you want to start bigger, stay big. Remember Jupiter is in Cancer, having the time of his life. Okay. Cancer season that we're just getting out of rules the home, right? Rules the self, like the womb, the creation. What is it that you want to create now? If you want to create more money, see where you can change your budget. If you want to create more money, maybe see where you change your job, right? Or see where you're spending money. If you want to bring that love in, if you want a romantic partner, um, really focus on yourself, right? First. It's this change that we're going through is that we were always focused on the other. And you have to be focused on the self. You really have to pay attention to what you're thinking, what you're speaking, what you're consuming. That is what lays the foundation to what you go and seek, right? And so in this deep time, and even radical time of transformation, right? You've got to pay attention. When we say like the universe is ripe, the universe is ripe for change. And when you start making those changes, maybe some of you will see something like immediately and be like, oh my gosh, right? Um, and maybe some of you will do something and you'll be like, I don't know, is anything changing? And the answer is yes. This is the time, right? When we get to that dark moon where we start planting those seeds. But it's also this time of what's coming up because all these planets are retrograde. Maybe a lot of memories from the past are coming up. Maybe a lot of things that people said about you in the past are coming up. You've got to make that decision of who you are now. And you know what? Okay, let's just go with this one. Let's go with this train on. You've got to make that decision of who you are now and how you're going to move forward. The other thing I was going to say was like, and the thing is, you might have always been this person. You always might have been super loving. You might have always been super trusting. You might have always been super funny, and people took advantage of that, right? And when people took advantage of that, these stories emerged, and then you felt like you had to defend yourself or, defend why you did these things. And if those stories are coming up, you need to sit down and have that talk with yourself. Tell yourself you love yourself. Tell yourself where you were coming from was from a good place. You can't control other people. You can't control their narrative. You can only control who you are and what your narrative is. And if those things are coming up, sit with them, talk with them, and to decide if you can, there's some light coming in, and decide if you it's time to let those things go, right? Um, I always say your friends know who you are. The people that you love always know who you are. This is a time not to get mired. People would say in the darkness or in old stories. It's time for you to decide, okay, I'm ready to move forward. Okay, if this is what I got to do to move forward, that's what I'm going to do to move forward because I do love myself. I do love humanity in a sense, right? I do love learning new things, you can fill in the blanks, whatever you guys love. In this time of transformation with the moon and the sun together in the sign of Leo, which is the self, it's our solar plexus. It's really beautiful too, because we move into Leo season on the 22nd. That's also the Feast of Mary Magdalene, which I just think is so beautiful. I'm going to leave a link below to Esoterica. Hopefully, don't click on it, but if you guys aren't following Esoterica, it's a great channel. I suggest you guys follow it. Um, because in folklore, if you will, or days of yore, if you were born in the sign of Leo, that was that kingmaker, right? And so the fact that we're moving into Leo season on the Feast of Mary Magdalene, which is such a beautiful divine feminine energy, speaks volumes to me and where the universe is and where the universe is going, okay? Um, and we can even use her as an example. So let's say they're like she's like sitting there and she's I don't know, on her computer doing stuff and then she's thinking about, gosh, everyone said I was a fucking whore, like oof. I was doing these things with JC. We were apostling and giving the good news and all this stuff and teaching people how to like love themselves and then, he goes and gets crucified and then leaves me there with all these men. Um, and then they write me out of the Bible and then call me a whore. Okay. And then so she's like, that really hurt my feelings. I could see her being like, that was really hurtful. When we were all there together, I was helping teach them. She's like, I funded the whole freaking project to begin with, right? And then this is how I'm repaid. Okay. And so if you guys can kind of superimpose this sort of situation with maybe things that went on with your life and like maybe that might be coming back up, right? And so what does Mary Magdalene do? Does she fight them, you know, I wasn't a whore, I wasn't these things, or does she sit with herself and she knows who she is? She understands no matter what she does, there's always there's always going to be a group of people who think that about her. Um, she knows the truth. The people closest to her know the truth, and the people who want to seek the truth will find the truth about her and her true self, right? So I hope this parallel story can help you guys. And it's like even now, she's still like bringing the good news, right? She's bringing the gospel. Like, don't worry, guys. I was there, and then they called me a whore, like for eons. Okay. She's still there. Okay. And she's still healing, right? She's still that beautiful energy that we go to. And so um mm, use that energy or the story that I just said, right, from Mary Magdalene, um, to understand that those kinds of things are going to be said about people, right? Especially people who want power, especially people who are greedy, right? Especially people, maybe want notoriety. I don't know. You guys fill in the blanks. Or people that are just bananas. Okay, we're moving out a lot of narcissistic energy. Um, and so it's really important at this time to stay grounded. Transmute those old energies. The beautiful thing about Pluto being retrograde, it's almost like he's sucking up all those old stories that maybe kept you down, sucking up all those old stories that maybe made you scared or afraid, and he's transmuting them. But the key is you have to want to transmute these stories. You have to want to end this victim energy. You have to want to say, I'm ready to let this shit go. I'm ready to let this shit be transmuted. If you guys could use the word transmute, that's going to be awesome. because that's what Pluto does. Pluto doesn't understand victimhood. Pluto doesn't understand addiction. Pluto doesn't understand um, sadness, right? Pluto just holds the energy of death and transmutation. And he's sitting over there churning in that fixed sign of Aquarius, um, who can hold him very well. They're equal because Pluto rules Scorpio, who's fixed water. And then the sun and the moon, the sun is in his home sign of Leo, which is fixed, right? That divine masculine and that moon, that's that divine feminine, and they're together and they want you to be whole. They want you to be integrated again with your divine masculine and divine feminine. And a lot of these old stories are the stories that separated us. And if that's really one thing we could learn from Mary Magdalene for sure, is that when she was teaching the good news with Jesus, they taught together, right? So that would be the example of the divine feminine and divine masculine on equal ground, you know, doing something, right? Um, and then she was, and then the men were, right? And this is all about this integration, this reintegration of this divine masculine and divine feminine energy that we are, that we have to be firing on all cylinders in order to make things move more smoothly. That's that manifestation, right? Getting back into that flow. And it's important to see a lot of these old stories that were said or we believed or we brought up or we thought help divide who we are as a person or as people. And it's time to transmute those stories. It's time for you to show up who you are. It's time to keep moving forward. It's time to ask for that integration of your whole self, your divine masculine self and your divine feminine self, right? Get these things moving and get yourself firing on all cylinders, as I like to say. Venus square those nodes, get these building blocks, make these changes, right? And if you're like, I don't even know where to start, I would suggest getting a little piece of paper and say, asking yourself a question. How can I better use my finances? What is it that I want in a relationship? What is it that I realize about myself? And maybe just come back to it each day and see what your mind says. It doesn't have to be huge. It could be huge, but it doesn't have to be. Break it down in chunks. What is the best way to integrate my divine masculine and feminine self today? And then maybe a story will come up and be like, oh, I need to transmute that story. Maybe it was never about you. Or maybe you were in it, right? But maybe it's time you realize you did learn that lesson and it's okay to move forward, right? It's okay to transmute that energy that surrounds that story in order for you to move forward. Um, this is a really powerful moon. That void, that darkness, right? That's where things are created, right? We all come from dark matter, if you will, right? In outer space. Um, Uranus is still at 7 degrees of Gemini, right? That 0 degrees is that karmic turning point, okay? Gemini ruled by Mercury. Gemini is how we communicate. So how are you communicating to yourself? How do you want to communicate to yourself moving forward? How do you want to communicate to your community? Communicate to your community. How do you want to communicate to the world at large, if you will, right? But it starts with the self, right? Leo, the ego, sure, right? You want to be in that higher ego. You want to be in that higher heart. You want to be in love. You want to be in understanding. You want to be in inspiration. Be in inspiration, right? Leo is the inspiration of fire. Um, Opposite right now, Pluto and Aquarius, the revolution, the new ideas, the new way of thinking. And if we go with this thread that Aquarius is trying to teach people, you think with the heart, right? And it's and getting out of that mind set, always the mind, but thinking with the heart. Um, so then it's holding hands with Leo at this time, right? Pluto's holding hands with the moon and the sun across the sky, if you will, at this time, because it is so powerful. We have to transmute those old ideas, the old world, and all of and that old way of thinking, right? That old way of being, that old way of, oh, this is the only path to get to A, B, and C. All of that is just being transmuted. So work with this energy. Um, Mercury's retrograde, Pluto's retrograde, Neptune's retrograde, Saturn is retrograde. This is going to be churning up a lot of stuff. It's coming up for you to transmute it. It's come up for you to bless it, however you want to do it, right? To move that stuff forward. Um, Leo season, it's going to be a big season. Um, but we want to move it forward with love and compassion, starting with the self. If you have to get off social media, get off social media. I'm doing a series with my friend Heidi called Tyranny and Tarot because it's almost a tale of two cities. The way that she's moving through everything, being a Latina, and the way that I'm moving, and she's also very spiritual. She deals with death. She's a death doula and an activist. And it's important, I think, just to talk with her because she does work in spaces, right, that maybe people don't want to go to or afraid to speak about, right? Um, in the way that she moves through that and brings awareness to that, just opposed with the way that I move through spaces and bring my messages through. I think it's a good cross mix of energy. I think it's a good cross mix of holding space for each other in everything that's going on in the world, but showing that it's important to have community and it's important to listen to others and their stories and to hold space for that, right? And so we're going to be going over a lot, especially in this retrograde period. Retrograde do not scare me, um, but I will say that this is a strong retrograde with all these things coming up. They're coming up to be transmuted. They're coming up to be um, reckoned with, if you will. So just know that. Give yourself a break, give yourself a time. Um, Work with the squares of fate, right? But let's make them your destiny. Let's bring in this is that time of working with things that might be uncomfortable. It might not feel very easy, right? But that's when you have to pump the brakes and take time to sit with yourself, see what it is that you want to transmute, but also remember who you are in your heart, what it was that you always wanted or how you felt, what it is that you want to create, right? Jupiter's not Jupiter's not getting out of Cancer just because the sun's moving into Leo. We need to be inspired and we need to create. And the sun and moon opposite Pluto, who is retrograde, is sucking all the things out of us, all our spiritual blocks, if you will, all our self-sabotage, right? Let it work, let it work, let it work, let it do its thing. Okay. All right, friends, I'm going to leave it there. Again, we're 4 days out. I'm sure you're already feeling this powerful energy with this dark moon. I am too. If you guys have any questions, just drop in the comments below. I'm gonna leave that thing for Esoterica, like and subscribe, all those things. And I'll start posting those things with my friend Heidi. If you have any questions for her, you can find her on TikTok and on Instagram at Let It Be Glorious. Okay, friends. Till next time, enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and I will see you soon.